How do you do it? Holy smokes.
Right this way, ladies and gentlemen. We are going to tell you all about the mutants and the masterminds.
And the mastermind. It's another fine day here at the Mutants Factory.
That's it. Steve, that's it. Totally.
We have a wonderful cure-all for everything that ails you.
You guys have that voice down. I love it.
From male pattern baldness to difficulty with the women.
Let's see. Green Ronin, it seems like your sound alerts browser source is offline. Make sure you've implemented that I'm not using OBS. So that's super weird that you would
A whole lot of nonsense.
Yeah. It is Moomamo. What a jaunty tune. I like it.
Right?
I like it too.
It's fun. It's got a little almost a sci-fi, kind of
Feel more
background
productive
noise.
already.
It's super fun.
Makes you want to whistle while you work.
It does indeed. But Moomamo is a program that comes to you every Monday, and it consists of 3 people who get together and talk about Mutants Masterminds, but these aren't just any 3 people. One of them isn't even a person.
Simon, it's from the 1880s, actually. I'm a snake oil salesman.
Exactly. You heard the voice of Alex Thomas. Alex Thomas is the line lead for Mutants and Mastermind. And then there's the Mutants and Master Daddy. His name is Steve Kenson. And did I say it was Troy? I think I did.
You did not, you just did.
I did indeed. Look at that.
Right?
That timing was perfect, Troy.
What
Did you do that on purpose?
No. What's happening
Amazing.
today? Things are firing on the background was perfect. I didn't have to adjust anything. I didn't have to do any sort of pixel magic. I don't know. I'm not going to jinx it.
Nope.
Let's roll with it.
Not.
But if there's a bazillion dollars out there, Green Ronin could give it to us.
Right.
Yeah, give it to us, and we'll make some books for you.
Yeah, we'll do something really awesome with it. We'll make a dataless movie.
Yes.
For $1 billion.
Just for the licensing opportunities.
Yep.
I love it. Look at who we've got. Let's see. We've got Glyphis here. Can our esteemed overlords see our desperate pleas? Rich Peanut Gallery commentary. Yes, we can indeed.
We can.
We subsist on it. Apuk says, I can hear this playing on Alex's Calliope. Yes. Squire's here. RC's here. Whoa. Starting a minute early.
The Calliope is just off screen. It's right next to my glockenspiel.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I need to look up what glockenspiel means.
The word glockenspiel just brought Troy to a screeching halt.
It sure did. I was concerned, honestly.
Glockenspiel is like a little xylophone.
Ken Pham says Moomamo was early today. Yes. The day of Daedalus. Yes.
Moomamo always arrives precisely what it means to.
Warden Maximus is here. Good to see you, friend. Ken was about to go to the comic shop. You don't want to miss this fun and rollicking good time. I do want to ask, just as a, hey, Rebel Moose is here. Do me a favor, folks, just so I can get a bead on where you're from. Throw your city, state, and country. I mean, if you're out of the United States, we may not know where your city is.
The front and back of your credit card.
Yes, right. The security code on the back and your first cat, is that what it is? And the street you grew up on. Paul says, hello, good to see you, Paul. Cloud is here and says, Daedalus.
Alex,
I like
don't
it.
play
Yeah,
with the
Rebel
switches
Moose
on
says,
the track when Troy is trying to say something.
That's right. It's true. It'll just roll right over you.
Never said I was a good train conductor.
I never said I was a good train. But okay, so look at this. Rebel Moose says, ooh, this will be a good topic.
Right?
It will be because, today we're talking about explaining M&M to new people.
Yes,
which is, everybody should be doing that.
I was going to say, in addition to throwing up your location in the chat, if you have particular roadblocks that you've run into in trying to explain M&M to new folks, then please let us know in the chat. We'll address specific concerns as well as talking in general about how you can, introduce the game to people.
I'm also interested too to hear if what are the common refrains that you hear from folks, and it's just interesting to kind of see what that might be, and if we've got kind of a unified idea of it. Squire says, let me give you the surefire way to intro to new players. Marry someone who likes TTRPGs and or board games, get some kids, any method acceptable, make sure age 10 or younger, force them to play. Okay. Indentured TTRPG-atude.
I like the any method, any legal
Any
method
is acceptable. Yeah.
Oh, he didn't even specify legal.
I'm hoping that it was meant to be any acceptable method rather than any method is acceptable. But
that could be alarming. Do clarify, Squire. Claude says, this topic would have been more useful to me a week ago. I had a session 0 with newbies 2 days ago. Claude, I have a feeling you were just fine.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
You get them to that session 0, and I think that's the finish line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is I know last week we joked that last week was the developer secret, but honestly, this is the code that we all need to crack. Every RPG that isn't Dungeons and Dragons. How do you get people to get away from the most popular RPGs and try something new?
Yeah,
right. Sure.
Yeah, exactly, and it makes sense because these are complex. Organisms. You've got to really, kind of learn some new stuff. It can feel weird.
Yep, that is true. I mean, the good part is that anecdotally, we know that the number one way people learn how to play any RPG is from someone else. That they get somebody else to introduce them to the game and run it for them and get a feel for how it's played. That's how almost everyone learns how to play RPGs, with the rare exception of people who teach themselves out of the books or learn by watching live streams like ours or things like that. So that's a big plus for folks who have a chance to run Mutants and Masterminds for new interested players.
Gotcha. Hey, Steve, your mic might be just a little quiet. I'm not sure, and I'm certain mine is not. But we'll move on from there. Let's see what we got here. Orlando, Florida, in Sioux City, South Dakota, Sioux Falls. Sorry, South Dakota. I don't know where I was going with that. London, in the UK, matey, right? Normally Boston, Mass. Where are you now? RC.
I will say Simon Wentworth is a perfect Brit name.
It is perfect.
I would probably cast a supervillain named Simon Wentworth.
Or a good spy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Absolutely. Temp asks, when's the latest you can reveal or talk about Swords of the Shadow Planet? I'm sorry, but it's just because I'm seriously just a little obsessed with it. Yeah, I hear you. We will be talking about that soon. Perhaps, we have to do it outside of a Thursday and outside of a Moomamo because
it's not either one of those things.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But also not during a Joy of Game Mastering because I have no idea what to talk about with Swords of the Shadow Planet.
Right. Oh, yeah. Are you doing your show tomorrow?
No, it was last week. My next one will be next Tuesday. The 1st. Or the 25th. Sorry, the 25th is next Tuesday. It'll be the week before Gen Con.
Nice. Are you? Are those every other week then?
They are.
Okay, great.
I'm thinking about recording some short videos to go on the weeks that I'm not live. Maybe talking about the previous topic in a short way, or talking about the next topic in a short way to prime people for the next one.
This is a fine time for me to throw out this idea. And one of the things that I'm hoping to get some of our Moomamo chat involved in this as well, but to put together a sort of little bits of advice that will help people understand how to play, much like we're doing here, or hints and tips and things. Maybe you are a person who's played for a long time, but this one weird trick. And then I want to make little shorts and TikToks and things out of those advice, and give credit where credit is due and all that good stuff. So, think about it, friends. If you've got something on your mind that, or something comes up here, I'll scribble it down and we'll start doing that. I think it'll be fun.
Yep, I still have my pen handy for pen alerts. So RC can yell bingo in the chat.
Yes, exactly. Let's see. What else do we got here? I was looking have a lot of great friends to help me. Yeah. But so here's a question for you two. Do you find that by and large it's about I love the game that I'm playing, and I have I have an allegiance and an honor. I will not leave my TTRPG because I'm a loyal person, or is it more about, gosh, this is a lot to learn?
It's a little of both, in my
Mhm.
opinion.
Yeah.
There's definitely some sunk cost fallacy where people are like, I already spent all this money on books. Why should I switch to another system? Or
Right.
I've taken the time to learn this system and I'm familiar with it and it's comfortable and I'm trying to do this for fun. Why would I add an extra degree of study to my escapism?
Yeah.
Right.
There's a level of commitment to learning a new game system. You have to spend a certain amount of time and probably money to
Mhm.
do it. And I find that is definitely a hurdle for some folks to overcome when it comes to picking up a new game.
How about genre, or even just
It can
time?
be.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It can be. I mean, if folks are particularly if fantasy RPGs is their jam, then they may not be interested in superheroes as far as that goes. And that's something that a game group has to negotiate
Right.
together. As
Mhm.
far as that goes, of what I know my gaming group has genres we like and genres we are not big fans of. So
Sure.
I imagine
Yeah.
Steve's gaming group is big into superheroes, though.
we can be, yeah.
Mhm.
It's interesting. Let's see. I believe that it was Ron Mapat. Yeah.
Mhm.
My players and I were diehard Champions players for a long time, and Eminem drew us
Mhm.
in by its much, much simpler math. And
Oh, good.
so,
I'm glad to
yeah,
hear
that's
that.
great. That's interesting. And so, when you are, so starting here,
Mhm.
what do you think is the very best way to lower someone into the mutants and masterminds morass? Like, what's the way to do it?
I've done
Mhm.
this a couple of times
Okay.
with friends of mine from work or from just people who I'm looking to game with at my friendly local game store. I start by figuring out if they're interested in superheroes and which superheroes they're interested in, and running a game with pre-gens of those characters. That's no commitment, just a one-shot show up and have fun, and that puts a lot of the impetus on me as a GM to ensure they have a good time. But generally, once somebody plays Eminem, they understand it's not as complicated as it looks from the outset.
Mhm.
Nice. Gives new player context for why their character's being built the way that it's being built, and
Hmm.
yeah, a
Mhm.
lot of folks are agreeing with you in chat as well, saying that pre-gens and a one shot is a
Yeah.
great
Yeah, I've tricked
Very
a lot
much
of
so.
people with Avengers games into playing Eminem long term,
Right.
and Guardians of the Galaxy games and Suicide Squad games. Just whatever team they're interested in, or if there's a movie that's coming out that people are excited about, I'll come up with a scenario around those characters and ease people into it that way. And
Right.
don't come to the session with expectations that they'll want to adapt Eminem as a full time thing.
Mhm.
Just understand that they might have a good time. They might say this was fun, but I don't want to do this long term. And be open to that feedback from them.
Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
And there's a real difference too in terms of people's interest in superheroes pre and post Marvel Cinematic Universe. It used to be 20 years ago when we started doing Mutants and Masterminds, unless somebody was a comic book fan or like of superhero animation or the like, they weren't going to know much about superheroes per se.
Mhm.
But with since the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like everybody has seen probably multiple superhero movies at this point,
Yeah.
and has a pretty good sense of the what the genre is like. And like Alex says, you can at least pitch the notion of, hey, would you guys like to play the Guardians of the Galaxy in an adventure or something like that?
Yeah. Have you found that over time that people are more willing to play titles outside of their regular comfort zone? Does it seem like that's happening more often?
I
That's a
have a
good question.
skewed vision of that
I do
Yeah.
too.
because
I do too.
I have a lot of friends who love Mutants and Masterminds, and I go to a lot of gaming conventions where people go there specifically to play stuff they don't get to play at home.
Yeah.
So I definitely see a lot of adventurous people branching out to try to play new games. But I also know groups of players who just steadfastly refuse to try anything that's not what they already know.
Right. Claude, you bring something up that's very interesting, and it was one of the things I was hoping we'd be able to touch on. It's just sort of innovations and changing up the way you expose people to the kinds of to a TTRPG, and going through the Basic Heroes Handbook as a group can be even more fun than one-on-one. I agree.
It's designed for that, really. I mean, so that's very true.
Such a delightful read anyway. I mean, just a lot of fun in general. Let's see. When we made the switch over to M&M, I was the owner of a comic shop, says Ramnapat. And so it was easy to find superhero fans. Sure. Yes, right.
Yeah, very target-rich audience there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Pope, good to see you. And I do like Miscreants. Was that what you said? So Pope says, oh man, not in my experience at all. The reason all of my tabletop gaming is with y'all or with RC and the gang is because my in real life only want to play D&D and I don't like to DM fantasy.
Sure.
Yeah. Rebel Moose did joke about an Oppenheimer M&M one-shot, but just pay attention to the first M&M mix-ups that's coming to Patreon.
Right.
Right. That's right.
That will definitely be an opportunity.
I got nuclear reactors for you. I got nuclear bombs for you.
I love it.
Y'all tried to trick me, but I figured it out.
See, you can't pull one over on Alex. Yeah.
Also, my acronym skills are on point, and I hope everybody knows that.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it. Looking very much forward to it.
You will all groan at this acronym.
I'm just going to say it now because I want people who aren't in the Patreon to have a reason to go sign up.
Right,
So
I love
one
that.
of the prime objectives in the adventure I wrote was the Catfish Facility, which is the Central Atlantean treatment facility for ionizing surface hazards. So go get it.
Right.
I dig it. Let's see. Raymond says you can tell them M&M can be used to play in any. Yes, I agree. In any style setting, not just superheroes. Show them.
I will say that if you want to do sort of a stealth introduction of M&M to your game group, that one way of doing that is by using the system to run a different type of game other than superheroes, and run a fantasy style RPG adventure scenario or a modern action adventure thing or something with space exploration using the M&M rules. And when the players are like, hey, these rules are pretty cool, you can be like, hey, you want to do some superheroes?
The old bait and switch.
Well, and it's a good thing when you're introducing M&M to people to set their expectation with what kind of game this is. This isn't a game where you're gaining power and becoming more powerful as you adventure. You're starting off awesome. So you get to make a cool character as you want it to be and do whatever cool things you want to do right out the gate. So it's a very different fantasy that you can sell to your players.
And that's a conceptual challenge for folks who are used to games where you start as first level nobodies.
Yeah, I think that is a little hard to wrap your mind around. Where's the slog and the pain and the system based sort of punishments. Raymond, I want to say real quick, you bring up a really great resource. The Superpowered Bestiary by Jacob E. Blackman is very cool over there at Rouge Genius, I believe it's pronounced. Rouge Genius.
It's another book I wish we'd done first.
I love it. It's so great.
Too.
Nice. RC says, I often feel so limited when I play D&D because of not having hero points or extra effort. Yeah.
My friend.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say my friends in my gaming group all want me. They keep asking me when I run D&D to be like, can you come up with some hero points and extra effort rules for D&D? Because
house rule hero points,
right?
I'm just saying, when you get inspiration, it feels bad.
Yeah,
your currency should never feel bad.
It's not the same. Yeah,
I feel bad real quickly because I just I neglected to mention that one of the Seans, Sean, had the idea for this program today, and I was reminded when you brought up Hero Point.
This particular program is Sean approved.
That's right. Let's see. That Superpower Bestiary has been a cornerstone of the Suicide Squad style adventure that I'm running with you lads. Yeah. Both you, Alex and I are.
We're Redacted Rangers.
That's right. It's super fun.
Yeah, I think another thing to remember when you're GMing a game with the intention of getting people to switch over to M&M is to not get too bogged down in the technical part of the rules. Just do the cool stuff. Just have narrative action. If you want to have, the GM's kit has these plastic sheets that give you different breakdowns for cool things characters can do in M&M. Make sure you have those out on the table.
Yep.
But don't get too into the minutia of how everything works. Just showcase how fun it is as a game to play.
Right.
Smart. I like that. Lean into the fun.
If people are interested in the deeper stuff, they'll come to you, and then you can get your deeper mechanical nerd stuff on.
Yeah.
I dig that. I love that. I also want to mention real quick that, RC, I saw that as well. The new drive-through RPG site is out. Like their kind of upgrade. It looks really nice. I like it.
I haven't seen that yet.
Their new
very
update is fancy.
It's super fancy. We have a fancy update. Well, it's not very fancy. I wouldn't say it's fancy, but it is an update nonetheless. We've got some products coming down the pike.
Yes, indeed we do.
We do indeed. Astonishing Adventures Assembled is. I think it's assembled. It's on its way.
It has in fact been assembled, and soon will be available for pre-order.
Yeah, we'll have some pre-order deals, and the $5 PDF deal is always sweet. So we'll run that, and then I just received word that the Arcane Secrets duology will be ready here. Matter of days.
Excellent.
Yeah, I've been poking through that, trying to find something fun to do mechanically to tie in with the novels. If you're looking for stat blocks or something like that.
Oh,
so if folks have requests, if you backed the Kickstarter and already have your copies of the Arcane Secrets duology.
I like the way RC thinks. RC says, I'm so excited for this book because AAA is going to be critical to my plan to start bringing in new players. Nice.
Ren Pat, we will have it for Gen Con.
We will. That's exactly right.
That'll be our new hotness.
That's the new hotness, and thank you, Alex, for catching that, because it will be there, and we're really excited. We're very excited about Gen Con in general. So if you're going to be there, friends, make sure you come and check out the booth and talk to us. Of course, we want to get together and do something. I don't know what it is yet, but it'll be fun, and it'll be hanging with us, and I will be embodied. So
yeah.
I will be embodied as well, and I have my 4 events were approved today. So
yay!
If
That's
you're
awesome.
interested in playing with me, please go to GenCon.com, look up Alex Thomas, and sign up for my events.
Sign up, because they will no doubt sell out fast.
Yeah. And folks, if you would like to help me sort of get away with or plan or execute the world's best prank, before you sign up for Alex, come talk to me. Just kidding. Could you imagine if I had everybody?
I'm in danger.
I love it. I'm just kidding. Don't come to me. Let's see. Klutz, at the end of the Doom that came to San Francisco had me on the edge of my seat.
Right. That's why it's a 2-parter.
Yeah, it's a fun story. There are a lot of cool characters that I did not expect to meet each other in the story.
I had the exact same reaction when I first read it. I was like, I did not foresee this combination. But
I'm tired on behalf of Thomas Reimer.
Right. Oh,
how about
so much energy for him?
The poor guy. What he has to put up with.
As if all of this is not enough, Apuk shares, he's part of the VTT team with Jonesy. We will also have all of the included adventures totally revamped on Roll20 with a massive glow up, including new tokens, new maps, and more.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
That's incredible.
Right?
I dig it. That is super fun. Okay, so how about we talk about things we generally talk about? Here's things you can do. What are things you shan't do? Like, just don't do this.
Well, my suggestion, one of the big hurdles for new players for Mutants and Masterminds is character creation. So my recommendation is, one of the things you should not do right out of the gate is just hand players a blank character sheet in the Deluxe Heroes Handbook and say, here, go build a character.
Yeah.
Instead, start with the resources we've given you for more basic character creation. We've got the archetypes, which are already pre-built characters that may just need a little tweaking here and there to customize them for the way the players want them, and that give you great examples of the kinds of characters. If players are looking for something that's like, what class do I play? Have them look through the archetypes and say, well, characters can be like this, and these are some classic superhero types. Do you want to play something like this? The random character generator is built off of the archetypes, so you can graduate from the archetypes to that. And the best part, the big secret about the random character creation generator, is it doesn't have to be random. You can have people roll if they have a hard time, if they're having decision paralysis, or they don't know which way to go, or they just want some inspiration. Random rolls can provide that. But technically, the random generator is just a menu of options that all add up the same way. So it's perfectly legit for players to just go through there and go, I want this, and I want this, and I want this, and just to pick whatever they want out of it, where they would normally roll, and build a character that way, just like picking off of a menu.
It was so easy when we did that on stream. It was just it was really great. And it also, it helped a few things click for me to have gone through that process with a human and to be able to sort of ask some of the questions and things. It was great, I thought.
Yeah, if you are going to have players create their own characters for your session, I would advise you to be present as the GM to guide the whole process.
Yes, help guide them through the process.
And if they are brand new to TTRPGs in general, it helps set the tone. It helps them to understand that this is sort of this, kind of benevolent, hopefully, arrangement where someone's going to walk you through a story and tell you as you're starring in it. It's an interesting dynamic.
Right. And I most definitely agree with the chat's suggestions that you should start with concept, if at all possible. If the players are at all familiar with superheroes, just have them like, what kind of character do you want to play? Even if it's just for them to be like, I want to play a character like this existing superhero. That gives you a good place to start, and then you can say, okay, that sounds like this archetype. Let's take a look at that, and look at what our options are.
I like what Ken's saying here. Depending on the person, I have them make their concept before even suggesting the rule set.
Yep. Yeah. And you can volunteer. What I've done for a lot of my starting groups is I've sat them down, had a discussion about what kind of character they want to play, and then made the characters' numbers for them if they aren't comfortable with the process of figuring it all out. And it can be different from player to player as you're going through your group of players. So be willing to accommodate whatever sort of hangups they have about it.
Yeah, have your library ready. Rebel Moose shout out for Power Profiles. So it's really helpful for character creation, especially when flavor is an actual game mechanic.
Sure. And I agree with Alex that if you're going to just run sort of a demo game, for a group of players, you may just want to get their sort of concepts and just build the characters yourself, and just hand them to the players and say, okay, here are your characters. We're just going to get right into the game.
How much do you go with those new players? How far would you go with the complications and things?
It would depend on the kinds of complications, because I want complications to come in, because that's a great way to earn hero points, and it's a cool way to showcase sort of the give and take between the GM and the player that M&M encourages.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I would do fairly simple complications that are tailored to the adventure I'm running.
Right.
Rather than complications that are always specific to that.
It
character.
strikes me as a great opportunity to talk about complications and how it is this sort of very unique sort of arrangement that you've got where you're going to be like, hey, this is going to trigger my whatever, that's my complication and why that's important for roleplay.
For example, my back in the USSR adventure that I'll be running at Gen Con in a couple of weeks, some of the characters have Beatlemania as a complication.
Oh, sure.
Because they are defending the Beatles, and they might be Beatles superfans, or they might hate the Beatles, and that might be different ways to encourage people to engage with the plot and earn hero points in the process.
I like dung beetles. They're cute. Steve, you've been trying to get a word in edgewise.
Well, I was just going to say I would emphasize the thing about complications is that when this happens, you get a hero point. And
Ah,
to really make it something that the players are proactive about. So you ideally want it where the players see an opportunity for their complication and go, "Hey, my complication applies here," because I get a hero point for that.
Mhm.
That gets the players very involved in the idea of bringing their complications into the game.
yeah.
Mhm.
And it's helpful for me as the game master because I rarely, if ever, remember everybody's complications in the
Mhm.
midst of the game. So it's good when the players are looking for those opportunities and are quick to say, yeah, my complication definitely applies here, or hey, do you think my complication would come up here?
It's also
Sort of a
fun when
thing
people kind of start mugging for, for
for
their
hero points. Yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
it's just fun. It's just I think it just sort of sets a tone. It's fun. It's, and then it's a commitment to the system, which I think is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Real
It's
quick.
it's a big difference for Eminem in that failure is not the end of the story. Failure is an
Right.
opportunity to earn resources and progress the story in an interesting, different way.
And I love that it acknowledges that complications are a mechanism for deeper fun. Like you had to
Hmm.
get in there and make yourself vulnerable, and that's
Yep.
great
Yep.
stuff. Really great
when
stuff.
I when I was running M&M demos at conventions, one of the things I used to do was when characters failed a roll and I was going to give them a hero point, I'd ask the player to describe the failure to me
Yes.
and say basically, how does this complicate things for your character? Tell me how things get more involved and complicated, and then if they gave me something good, I would say, great, here's a hero point. You know,
The both of
and
you do that as GMs, and I love it. You
yeah, gets people
if like
invested.
it's a big win, or if it's something that is a little more tragic, it's phenomenal. It really put me on the spot in a very fun way. I was like, oh, this is the moment. I get to
Mhm.
do this. Yeah, it's fun. It's
Sure.
really great.
And honestly, I'd much rather play out a complication that a player has chosen than impose one on them.
Mhm.
That's great. That's great. I do want to. This is just kind of cracks me up because I'm imagining that sometimes the onboarding of folks who have not played TTRPGs, and all the streets are lined with gold, and I get everything that I want, and I'm a hero, and I'm the
Yeah.
win. But RC says I remember back in first edition M&M before I learned to say no, that one of my friends made a character whose powers were duplication and self detonation.
Oh,
Hmm.
I love that power set. That's awesome.
That
Right.
is great. I just thought that is how hilarious. I know a few characters in chat that would be perfect villains for that kind of mess. Let's see here.
I'm picturing the two duplicates playing rock paper scissors for who has to
About
go
who
blow
gets to
themselves
blow
up.
up.
You're right. Yeah, yeah. Is it by birth order? Yeah, I like that. Claude says, question this come up with two new players separately.
Hmm.
They wanted gadgeteers, but instead of using inventor, they wanted to use their power points to build devices that they could hand off to others.
I'll let Steve
Hmm.
jump on that one.
Well,
Hmm.
it's an optional. It's a potentially useful concept. The character is kind of potentially problematic, but the main things you need to watch out for are power level limits, for
Mhm.
one thing. The notion of my gadgeteer is going to create a force field belt that is going to increase the already invulnerable character's toughness, for example. Unless you're going with something more subtle, like it's going to make your normally not impervious toughness impervious or something like
Mhm.
that. Um, so that's one issue that you have to take into account, and that's sort of a metagame thing. The other is just the character being sort of just a resource for the other characters and not being actively involved. You don't want one of the player characters to be the guy who just hangs out at their headquarters and gives everybody stuff and says, "Well, good luck.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'll be here to get back." As far as
Yeah.
that goes, because that is a kind of difficult character to include in the action of the adventure. You can sometimes come up with stories that work, in parallel to
There's a
do
lot of
that.
labor there. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
right, on a regular basis, that's just really hard and awkward to do. But mechanically, you can definitely build gadgeteers who can loan their devices to other characters. It's just
Mhm.
watch out for the potential issues that raises.
Squire says my character in MSH was roadkill. He could mimic any animal he ate. Wow, that's a
I
great
hate
power.
that for him.
Yeah. Now,
Right.
if he was roadkill, does that mean is he mimicking them as a chewed food?
What if he ate another superhero?
Oh,
Right. I was
does he
gonna
get the
say
powers, or he's
people are animals.
yeah, they're weird.
It's a
Yeah,
really
I'm
disturbing
curious.
thought, but
You'll have to let us know, Squire. Was it that he was able to turn into chewed meat?
I assume he'd be able to turn into a living version of that animal and not like a flat one.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, right. Exactly.
that would be a less useful power.
It does seem like a little bit, limiting.
Yeah, we could probably have a whole Mumamo about how to run support characters in M&M because it is
Mhm.
one
Yeah.
of the most
Sure.
popular character concepts that people come up with, and it's one of the most common requests I've seen on the subreddit for how do I do this.
Mhm.
So, and having team players is something that's very superhero anyway. I mean,
Yeah.
it's quintessential in the comic books. But
Yeah, one of
also
the great-
remember, like, you're not going to hand a force field belt to Superman and try to make him better at it.
Right.
So there's some give and take.
Here's a quick question. A couple first. Random Pet says, anybody seen Crypto?
The
I don't think
cartoon?
like the money, the fake money.
Oh, he's talking about has anybody eaten crypto?
Oh, yeah. That would
Oh
be,
no,
that would be awkward.
That's horrible. That is horrible. I am expecting to see an answer to that question because I'm going to just presume you're just chewed up meat. That's roadkill. Your powers were just to look like roadkill and have a different flavor, I guess. Hey, I wanted to also say, wouldn't it be? I don't want to make this too much of a deal, but we should do like a newbie contest or something. Like bring your favorite newbie or
Sure.
something. We had that. We'll workshop that.
Bring your favorite, people who are M&M curious, and we'll answer questions for them.
Yeah, I like that. And so, will we have people bring them to Mumamo?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Okay.
that's cool.
All right. What should the prize be?
I don't know. That's a good question. We can get, some game books for newbies.
Yes.
Yeah.
maybe.
Okay. And maybe we'll do it over a course of time so people can score.
Right.
And then whoever gets the highest score, them and all their newbies get some M&M dataless panties.
Both RC and Claude suggest to take your newbie to work day.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Game day.
exactly.
I do
like
want to talk a little bit more about some of the should not do for
Yes,
introducing
please.
people
Yes.
in M&M. One of the big things that I would suggest avoiding is doing something that is particularly lore heavy, or something where there's a lot of named characters from settings that the characters don't recognize,
Mm.
and like setting expectations for how they're supposed to act as the character they're playing. Just avoid that because you don't want them to think that they can't get into this game without knowing the whole wide history of Earth Prime.
Mhm.
Gotcha.
Or
Can I-
DC Comics or Marvel Comics, whatever setting you're introducing people to.
Right.
That's really well said. I want to throw SC Terran Marine has a question. How would you handle a player who creates a character who pilots a battlesuit remotely while away from battle as if but is still affected by feedback? The character has ALS. Okay.
Honestly, I just do it as a complication.
Yeah.
Yep.
I would basically just treat the remote battlesuit, like a character, because obviously the pilot still takes damage when the character takes damage, and the fact that they just have their helpless human body stowed somewhere is just a complication that could come up.
Yeah, I think we might. I vaguely remember us kind of talking about this as a sort of an archetype or just a way to handle some. That's interesting. Yeah.
Freebooter in the Crime League is kind of like that.
Is that character? Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Basically, I mean, you can go to the trouble of building. I would do different character sheets, the two versions, but I wouldn't go into a great deal of trouble about applying, what limitations apply to the battle suit's powers and all of that. It's just easier to just treat it like a regular character.
Mm-hmm.
Got Squire says he was like Animal Man, but limited to what he had eaten off the ground. Had to be raw, and he could have 4 stored animal archetypes. Okay.
There's no getting away from this concept, is there?
No, there really isn't. Yeah. What are you? I'm an armadillo. Yeah. Okay. Great.
My filter caught making it worse, so I'm going to let the filter hold on to that.
All right.
Claude does say, so using archetypes versus handing them the Freedom Week. You can hand them the Freedom Week. I would just not hand them the full 2-page spread from the Freedom City sourcebook.
Right.
I would hand them like a paragraph backstory.
Mm.
So boil it down to the essentials and don't make it feel like you have to have this knowledge of the wider universe in order to engage with the material.
And don't make the adventure about like a huge amount of backstory between the characters. You know, like, you know, if you're going to have them face off against the Crime League, for example, you know, don't worry about like, you know, oh, these characters have ages of history between them. Just like,
sure.
This is your arch enemy and this is what they're like. You know?
Right. Yeah. They're insufferable.
That's all you need to get into.
Johnny Rocket doesn't like Dr. Simeon, but
Done.
you don't have to explain that's because Dr. Johnny Rocket has a clone daughter made by Dr. Simeon, and they've been enemies forever.
No,
on deep dive.
On the flip side of that, there are going to be some nerds that want that detail.
Sure.
Where would you? Should the GM carry in their, you know, sort of their utility belt if they want people want to go a deep dive?
I would bring the Freedom City sourcebook with you and then let them read it after the game, because those people who are like, I'm hooked in this, I want to know more, won't tell you until after the game's over, generally speaking.
Nice. Now, SC Terran says, would that sort of character be considered a bathroom mentalist? What?
Not really, because the character at least has some consequences. The classic bathroom mentalist is a character who basically can stay at home but do things over a great distance. And you know, the classic example is I can project my mind out to wherever, and I can also move objects with it and mental blast people, and no one can touch me or affect me in any way. You know?
Right.
The key for that battlesuit character is that there is feedback, that they can suffer damage like everybody else. You know, so you can have some fun with that. The character has consequences. There's risk, just like every other character. And you can even do some fun stuff, like what happens when the whole team is defeated and imprisoned somewhere, and then the character wakes up in his home, recovering from the feedback. He's free, but he has no access to the battle suit, and he doesn't know where everybody is.
Yep.
I love that. Also, Claude, that's pretty funny. As a lore rich adventure, you have to save Bowman's ex-girlfriend's mom. I love that. But I agree with you. We need to create more lore nerds for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. It's cool lore. But I tell writers this too when they send me books to edit. Is I describe it as brick wall world building, where you don't want the learning curve to be so steep that people hit it like a wall and bounce off. Because the learning curve has to be accessible to people to get on board, because they'll climb a couple of steps, they won't climb a mountain.
And here's the other thing too. I think that there's a certain amount of, we'll say, expectation that should be made clear to the player that you're going to have to do some work. There's going to be some stuff that you need to be prepared for, and you know, and the GM is there to guide and to kind of mentor and help in the way that they're supposed to. But talking to the people who are like, you know, like they're on the fence, or, you know, what's a good way to sort of get into it? Because one of the things I noticed about you two is that you steep yourself in many genres. Like you are very well aware of what's going on across the TTRPG genre sphere, and that's a lot. You are also people who, you know, write for a living, and so you've got to have a vast supply of, you know, content to sort of create your masterworks. But my question is, what can people do if they're just almost there, or, you know, what should they be thinking about?
Not quite clear on the question.
I'm the person who is about ready to try something new, or you know, like are resistant to trying something new. Like, what are some ways that we're speaking to them as people? Like, they're listening right now. There are, you know, 3,000 of them are listening to the program now.
I mean, honestly, it really boils down to come on, give it a try.
Yes, that's fair. That's fair.
You got 4 hours. It's not going to kill you.
Right. I think the example that was mentioned in chat, that's a great one, is if your group has a regular GM and it's not you, just offering to run a different game for one session can often carry a lot of weight. Just to be like, hey, our forever GM gets to play. Like, let's try this thing.
Yeah, that's a great way to recruit your other GM to be another advocate for doing this.
Yeah, and if you want to take over that GM's job, just slowly poison them over time, and then it's yours, right?
It's worked for me since I was 11.
Yep. Talking about genre, though, I will say there's one thing that Alex's suggestion of pre-gens also supports really well, is a better ability to enforce the genre conventions when you're introducing folks to a superhero game, which is often different than a lot of other RPGs, because with pre-generated characters, you can say something like, oh, yeah, I don't think Captain Thunder would do that. He's not that kind of character, and suggest something. So when a player is like, yeah, I want to use my lightning bolts to just kill this guy.
Right.
You could be like, yeah, I don't think Captain Thunder is really that kind of guy.
It's not the kind of story we're telling.
and get them a little bit more into the spirit of things, especially when they're coming from, a murder hobo fantasy.
Right.
Game,
Rebel Moose says,
as a GM, it's important to remember that this isn't just an audition for your players to join M&M. This is an audition for you to run for these players for M&M. So if the game doesn't quite go the way you're expecting it to, talk to them, but also understand that maybe they're not an M&M group and you want to find other players to play with if you have that option.
So when do you think is the right time just to let it go? Or do you just doggedly do you just chase them down every moment you can wearing a cape and a tights?
Well, I mean, ultimately it's a game. It's supposed to be fun.
There we go.
If you have to badger people into playing it, then probably not your game group for this. Look for another group of players. Right. Yeah. I mean, especially honestly at that point, if players are forced into it, they may just be determined not to enjoy it at that point. And there's just no fun to that.
Yeah. And it's important to remember that we live in a time of massive connectedness. And if you can't find a group of people to play with in person, there are people online who are looking for groups to play. Yes. There are places you can go to find other M&M players. Because as much as we want more M&M books to be sold, it is about having fun. It is about building a community of people who are here pushing in the same direction.
Right. We're not looking for GMs with a bunch of hostages either. I mean, that's like...
No, absolutely not. Absolutely. And as I'm sure Jonesy would want us to point out, with more and more M&M resources on Roll20 all the time, you can, create an online game and advertise for players, and they can be from anywhere.
Absolutely. Ken Pham says, which pre-written module would be best for a beginner campaign, short and long term?
Long term, I would suggest Emerald City Knights because it has a great onboard for when you get your powers from. There's not an expectation of knowing the lore of Earth Prime because there haven't been any superheroes in Emerald City since ever. Short term is a little harder. I would go with something, whatever you think would appeal to your players' fantasy. So I like A Cold Day in Midtown as a good onboard one.
I mean, I think Power Play, is a good starter adventure. It's very simple. It's a heist, so it's pretty straightforward. Isle of Dr. Cersei is a little more wahoo, in terms of, superhero stuff. But the great thing about superhero games like M&M is pretty much any astonishing adventure you pick up that isn't like part of a series is probably a good starter adventure.
Yeah, I really like Menace on Mystery Mountain, but it is definitely a certain vibe. And Nether War is a good long form campaign if you know your players like magic superheroes.
Indeed.
Absolutely. Well, so listen, we are going to we're going to close a little early and yet still extend. We've got some important business to attend to, but before we do that, Steve, what's going on in your world? Anything that folks should know about? URLs they should click, that kind of thing?
I think we've hit all the high points because we've got new product coming along, and I'm working on stuff that's much further out right now. So just keep an eye out for the upcoming poll on the Patreon for our next mix-up with some villain team options and some new locations. I'm looking forward to seeing what folks choose.
Nice, very nice. Now, are you going to be? Is that going to be yours?
Yeah, that next one's mine.
Fun, very fun, awesome. Alex, how about you? What's cooking in your world?
Oh, mostly Gen Con prep.
Yeah.
Although this Wednesday we have our next Patreon Dev Q&A.
Oh,
hey,
for Mutants and Masterminds. So
they'll sneak right up on you, don't they?
They sure do. Yeah, a lot of Gen Con preparation, and I am getting set to run Emerald City Nights for our friends Rem Alternus over on their channel.
Oh yeah, nice.
Speaking of new M&M players, I'll be running it for a bunch of people who haven't played M&M before.
I love Rem.
Nice.
Absolutely love Rem. Yeah, so that's what we're really up to our eyeballs in getting things ready for Gen Con. That's going to be a ton of fun. And yeah, if you're going to be there, send a note to Let's Play at greenronin.com, and maybe we'll get a little hero party together.
Right?
Yeah. I dig it. Hey, Alex, Steve, thanks so much for hanging out today. As I said, we're going to close up just a little bit early. We're making some space for Apook to come and speak and to memorialize a fallen hero. And but I want to say to the both of you, thank you so much. And I know you'll be here, but we're going to turn your cameras off. So I will do that now. And it is one of those situations we've never encountered a circumstance like this in this way, and giving Apook 1 second, friend. There, can you hear me?
Yes, I definitely can.
Okay, great. I'm going to change the background and I'll start the video. Are you ready to go?
Let me read this little intro first, and then we can start the video up.
Okay.
So first of all, hello everyone. Thank you for this opportunity. For those who don't know, 1 week ago, the Freedomverse server and the world experienced a great tragedy. Our beloved community member, Idiocy Inc., passed away in his struggle with mental illness. This is a monumentally tragic loss. Idio was in many ways the heart and soul of our community. He was my best friend and my little brother. He was also a passionate M&M player who loved this game, this community, and this stream. And 6 months ago, I was able to get him a job as my assistant doing online conversion work for M&M, so he was also a Ronin. So now with Troy's assistance, I'm going to read the eulogy I wrote for my dear friend. So how do you sum up a life? You don't. You can't. Especially with so special a person. So I won't try. But I do want to tell you about my friend, Idiocy Inc. Idio was one of the earliest additions to the Freedomverse. He even played in the very first game run in the server by Les. Over the next 5 years, he became more than my friend. He was my little brother, my beloved Hermanito. He was sweet and kind, and gentle and chivalrous. For many people that comes off as pretentious, but with Idio you always knew it came from the heart. In a world that can sometimes be full of toxicity and negativity, he was a supportive, nurturing light. He never had a bad word to say about anyone, and I never knew anyone who didn't love him once they got to know him. Many of you did get to know him through his interactions in the server and in games with him. His sense of humor and giggle was infectious, and he was always positive, always supportive, always had a nice word to say for someone looking for feedback. Most of us knew him primarily through his characters, which were always unique and creative, just like Idio himself. They were all wonderful, but most notable were his Master Mage Albion, and the interdimensional defender of Earth, Cestral, along with Cestral's daughter, Tesseract. All of the qualities Ideo shared with us here were who he truly was. He carried himself that way out in his life beyond the server and this community as well. And I wanted to share some of that with you too, because outside of our community, he was Scott Alford, who was a son, a brother, and a loving uncle. Scott was a brilliant, creative soul who was a writer, a storyteller, a Jedi in the truest sense, and a dedicated martial artist. Martial arts gave him focus and direction. He was always happiest deep in the forms, where he could find an inner peace he couldn't find anywhere else. He was so dedicated that his teachers invited him to a private retreat and had him teach beginning classes, and he was so proud of their invitation. That weekend was one of the happiest I'd ever seen him, and the videos in this presentation are from that weekend. All Scott wanted to do was help people and animals. Indeed, animals were truly his first love. He earned certifications to work with them and care for them, but as time went on, he continued his education and work experience to include becoming a medical assistant helping the elderly, with a dream towards becoming a nurse one day. He was a selfless, giving, decent human being. He was simply one of the best people I have ever known. And he was a warrior. Because Scott also struggled with acute mental illness. He struggled and he fought every single hour of every single day of his entire life. He fought against demons and voices and powers that none of us will fully understand or appreciate. But he persevered and he fought like the hero he was until he couldn't fight anymore. In the end, he sacrificed himself to destroy those demons and take them with him, the demon slayer to the last. That's the reality, but that's not what I want to leave you with, because Scott as Ideo filled our lives with so much joy, so much fun and giggles and light. He was the perfect companion to plumb the furthest reaches of space, the deeps of time, and every dirty back alley with. And we brought him so much joy too. He loved the Freedomverse. He truly loved it. In many ways, it was the center of his world. And so too were all the people here. Those of us who remain and remember and love our dear friend, my sweet Sumanito, one of our greatest heroes, now gone beyond the veil to the Feywild that he loved so much. And finally, I would like to share an Irish saying that my friend taught me. My friend Lass, who is someone who also loved Ideo like family. And it's a saying about death. And the saying is, death leaves a heartache no one can heal. Love leaves a memory no one can steal. Loving and remembering you, my friend. Wait for me a little while beside the path. Thank you for this time.
Everybody have a great week.